Greetings and welcome to our last unit, the fourth unit of stress management. Today we will be discussing about practicing self-care, how to manage your anger, and how to develop resilience. So these are very important aspects in terms of managing your stress, and you will be able to overcome all these obstacles, and you will be able to find your own coping skills um, while managing your stress. So let's begin with understanding practicing self care. How do you practice self care? Sometimes what happens is we overdo ourselves. We don't, take care of ourselves. We tend to overwork and end up, taking a lot of stress, which is more than what we can do. So it is always better to work on our stress by doing very less. Doing very less, when I say doing less, doesn't mean that not to take up your work or not to do your work. But when I say consider doing less, you do what is possible or focus on one thing that can be done within that time period. Don't try to do a complete a huge task which needs to take actually needs to be given 3 to 4 days uh, in at a go or within a day or even within 2 to 3 hours. What you need to do is try doing less. That is, you break down those tasks into different aspects, and then you try to work on it. Second one is make time for reflection. So try to understand what the acts or the activities that you've been doing, the tasks that you were doing. How is it going to help me? And how I can take some time out, and how what did I do wrong that is making me stress a lot. So when you're reflecting, when you're taking time out to reflect on what has happened already, what is causing stress, then you are able to overcome that. You're able to avoid that or make avoid making the same mistake the next time. Definitely taking a vacation is very important. Always work and focusing on only the things that needs to be done will definitely add on to your stress. Taking a vacation is going to help you just relax, enjoy the time that you are out, away from all the work and hassles and the burdens that are catering to. Then commit to regular exercise. Exercise, as we've discussed even previously earlier, we've discussed about it many times, right? So regular exercise is very important, which will help us to tackle the stress that we are experiencing. Then getting some sunlight and also practicing meditation, like we mentioned before. We also looked at different techniques in meditation and mindfulness aspects. So doing those or practicing them also is going to help you with your self-care, which will definitely help you in overcoming your stress. The next aspect is developing resilience. How do you develop resilience? Or what is resilience? First, we'll just try to understand what is resilience or resiliency, and then we will try to understand how you develop resilience. So, resilience is the ability to adapt and bounce back when things don't go as planned. So, resilient people don't wallow or dwell on failures. They acknowledge the situation, learn from their mistakes, and then move forward. We were previously talking about disasters and man-made disasters, PTSD, and all of that. We're talking about how different people, approach the problems differently. So when people are resilient, they're able to adapt to the situation. Able to accept the fact what has happened and able to go back to normal situation. That is what we refer to as resiliency. When there's a problem arising, there's something that is causing stress for you. When you are able to tackle that issue, when you're able to bounce back to normalcy, that is when we call that that is what we call as resilience or resiliency. So I have two videos to show you. One will start off with understanding how to develop resilience.
In case you hadn't noticed, life is difficult, complex, and unpredictable. You can't change this. It's the nature of things. But you can prepare yourself for the next unwelcome surprise. How? By building resilience. Resilience is the ability to bounce back from life's inevitable disappointments, failures, and pains. Let me use an analogy here. If cars didn't have shock absorbers, every ride would be a miserable experience. The ride through life without shock absorbers, that is resilience, would be the same. So without building resilience, your own internal shock absorbers, it's not possible to lead a happy and productive life. Resilience is the opposite of fragility. To be fragile means that just about everything upsets you. And if just about everything upsets you, you will spend a lot of time angry and hurt. And if you spend a lot of time angry and hurt, you will not be a happy person. Here, I'm not focusing on severe illness, the death of a loved one, or any crushing life-changing event. In such cases, people usually need help to recover. But for most of us, such situations are rare, while the slights and disappointments of ordinary life are not. And for those, we need resilience. Okay then, how do you develop resilience? Here are some suggestions to get you started, drawn from my 40-plus years as a psychiatrist. First, get some perspective. Step back and assess your situation with as much objectivity as you can. How bad is this problem? Have I overstated it? Sometimes my patients think an unhappy occurrence is much more serious than it really is, usually because it's amplified by evoking a painful childhood issue. Often getting perspective is as simple as asking yourself this question: what's the worst thing that can happen? Usually you'll discover that the worst thing isn't that bad, and isn't even likely to happen. Second, compare the undeserved bad things that have happened to you with the unearned good things that have happened to you. When I ask my patients to do this, they invariably conclude that the unearned good in their life far outweighs the undeserved bad. I'd say the ratio is at least 10 to 1. In my own case, I didn't earn the incredibly good fortune of my grandparents moving to America, or that life-saving penicillin was available to me in my childhood when I was sick. I could go on, and so could you. In light of this, maybe things aren't so bad after all. In fact, they're probably pretty good. Third, toughen up. Life hits you from all directions: health, personal relationships, work challenges, family issues. To deal with them, you need to build up your mental toughness. The earlier in life one starts this process, the better. That's why parents who coddle their children and protect them from every hurt and failure are not doing them any favors. Nor are colleges that provide students with so-called safe spaces. To toughen up, you need to push yourself. How do you know what you're capable of if you don't do that? I was a sickly child. I saw myself as physically fragile. But the grueling hours in medical school and treating patients with serious illnesses during my residency showed me I was much tougher than I thought. You too probably have more strength than you realize. Find out. Finding that strength will give you resilience. Fourth, be the architect of your own fate. Although there are many times in life when we can't control circumstances, there are very few times when we can't control how we react to them. The late Pulitzer Prize-winning columnist Charles Krauthammer provides an inspiring example of this. Krauthammer became a quadriplegic in medical school following a freak diving accident. Rather than wallow in self-pity, Krauthammer resolved to finish his medical studies from his hospital bed. He did, and without missing a single semester. Fifth, take an honest inventory of your life. Make a real effort to discover how you have contributed to your own misery. In other words, how many of your life's speed bumps have you created? This will help you see that the ability to change your life lies as much within you as in external circumstances. You can then avoid those behaviors that expose you to failure or difficulty. Focus on your power, not your helplessness. And the greatest power anyone has is the capacity to change. You can certainly experience happy moments without resilience, but to lead a happy life, it's essential. I'm Dr. Stephen Marmer, psychiatrist, UCLA Medical School, or Prager University.
Yeah, so I have one more video to show you guys. So let us watch this video, another video on how to reduce stress through guided imagery. Now, guided imagery is nothing but you will be, suppose I'm telling you a story or something, or giving you a visual, imagination, where I'm asking you to imagine certain things by just saying things. So you will try to understand it by watching this particular video.
This last exercise doesn't directly involve your muscles. This one is very beneficial because we'll be using the power of our mind, memories, or imagination to create a sense of relaxation. Let's jump right into it. Once again, find a comfortable position and close your eyes. Take a moment to think of a peaceful place that you've been to where you truly feel relaxed. For some people, this may be a beach. For others, somewhere out in nature. It may even be in the comfort of your own home. Take a moment to bring this place to mind. Now, I will walk you through noticing your different senses as you envision this relaxing place that you've chosen. First, notice if you're alone or if others are present in your peaceful place. Think about how you may be dressed. What are you seeing? Notice colors, lighting and shadows, textures of objects around you. Are there any pleasant smells present? Describe them to yourself in a few words. What do you notice with the sense of touch? What is your skin coming into contact with? Sunlight, a breeze? What do you taste? What do you hear? Now open your eyes, and how do you feel in this moment? You can always use guided imagery to bring yourself to a relaxing place, which can result in you feeling physically and emotionally relaxed.
I hope you actually closed your eyes and gone through that guided imagery. If you have, definitely you would have been able to imagine and feel like you were going through those places, like when she is giving you instructions of places and places being at different places. Right. So not just that, sometimes even looking at calming and soothing pictures, it is going to help you reduce stress. In recent times, even animal therapy is said to be very helpful. Like sometimes looking at fishes in an aquarium, or even with playing with animals, your pets like dogs or cats. It is also said to be helping you with reducing stress. Now, something that I would want to discuss further is about anger management. Let's just try to understand how and what are the ways can we, manage our anger. Like I mentioned even before, think before you speak. Always pause for a moment, even instead of acting on your impulses, instead of acting on your anger. Just stop for a moment and think before you speak. Secondly, once you're calm, then express your anger. So when you're calm and when you try to express your anger, there will be a lot of difference from how it was previously if you wouldn't have stopped and calmed yourself down. Probably you would have been shouting or even becoming more violent. There are chances. But when you calm yourself down and then express your anger, you might redirect it and put it out in a very different way. Getting some exercise, like always I've been explaining or discussing throughout our session of stress management. I've been discussing about how important exercise is. Definitely, getting some exercise, you're able to channelize your energy, your anger towards, releasing them through exercises and your bodily activities. Then taking a time out. If you feel like you're getting angry, just try to stop there, maybe get out of that situation, that scenario. Taking a time out is very important to manage your anger. Then identifying possible solutions. Instead of just acting on your impulse and getting angry, if you just try to identify possible solutions, you will be able to overcome that. Then sticking with I statements. We almost always have this tendency to blame others for being the trigger or causing anger for our anger. But when we understand that we are just getting triggered by others' actions, it is us who we are, it is we who are responsible for our actions or anger, then we are able to manage it and not to act on those and blaming others. So these ways you can actually manage your anger. So I would also like to, narrate a small story which I've heard long back about anger. So once there was this man, he was very angry with his friend, and he wanted to write this letter. This was a time when we did not have phones or chats or social media where you couldn't give any instant reply in messages. So what happened, he was very angry that he wanted to give a reply to his uh, friend or his companion, his acquaintance, and he started writing. He started writing very, when he was very angry, and he started writing very harsh things. After completing, finishing the task or finishing the letter, he thought, it started raining and he did not want to go out. Maybe, yeah, he couldn't post the letter that day. So he waited for a day. He thought maybe I'll post it the next day. And again, what he did the next day, before going out and posting the letter, he opened the letter and started reading. He thought maybe I'm a little harsh. So he thought, okay, I'll rewrite the letter. He started rewriting the letter. So the intensity of the anger that he expressed in his letter started becoming less intense. Again, the next day, he thought maybe I'll send it later. And then again, the next day and the day after, he opened the letter he read and he started writing a different letter. And as the day passed, again the next day, he continued this process. And later, at the end, he decided not to send the letter. He literally tore off that letter. So this is what actually happens when we try to manage our anger. We are actually losing a lot of energy by just becoming angry and putting shouting or maybe expressing that anger to others. So if you follow these methods of managing your anger, this is definitely going to help. How to identify negative thoughts. Like we mentioned or discussed in the initial class, how our thoughts can give rise to stress. It is very important. Mostly it is the negative thoughts that are contributing to our stress. So it is very important that we identify these negative thoughts, tackle them, and overcome those stressors in our life. So starting with the first thing a person does when it comes to having a negative thought is filtering. Filtering is kind of a negative thought where you tend to magnify all the negative aspects and filter out all the positive ones. For example, you focus on all the bad things that have happened to you on a particular day and ignore all the good things. Suppose you were complimented in a group in your group or in your classroom by your teacher, whereas at the same day you were scolded for not submitting your assignment on time by another teacher. Instead of focusing on the compliment, you focus only on the negatives. That is the scolding that you received from your teacher for not submitting your assignment is what we call as filtering. Filtering of negative thoughts, where you focus only on negative thoughts. The second type of negative thought is when something bad occurs, you tend to blame yourself, where you always personalize it. You might say that it is all because of me. It may be because I'm this way, that's why my friends are not like me, or that's why they are not inviting me for a particular party. So you tend to personalize and blame yourself for all the things that are bad that is occurring in your life. The third kind is catastrophizing, where you automatically anticipate something worse. You don't want to look at the positive, but the worst. Maybe you are having an exam tomorrow and you might feel like I'm definitely going to fail for this exam, even before giving the exam, even before you've seen the questions, and even before answering it. So that's what you mean by catastrophizing. The next type is polarizing, where you either see only the good things or only see the bad things, where there's no middle ground. You don't try to compromise and see the gray area, but you just either you want feel that you have to be perfect or you feel like you are a total failure. That is what is referred to as polarizing. So these are the different types of negative thoughts that may occur to us, and identifying these negative thoughts are very important. If you are one of us who use these negative thoughts or have these negative thoughts, it is better that you identify them and try to tackle them. Now let's see, how do you restructure them? So we have something known as cognitive restructuring, where these are therapeutic techniques which will help you change these patterns of negative thinking. So in order to change these negative thoughts, what you need to do is start off with self-monitoring. You monitor yourself and try to identify, like the four types we mentioned of negative thoughts we mentioned uh, just now. So are going to we are going to, identify these problems. What error are you making? What exactly is the negative thought pattern that you have? These thought patterns could be very unproductive and not contributing to anything in your life. Definitely, you have to restructure it and change it. Like the example given here, if you're a student who has trouble with anxiety, you might notice a pattern of catastrophizing in test environments. The example I already have given you. Maybe your pattern goes something like this: I'm absolutely going to fail this test and fail the course and not be able to graduate with everybody else. Everyone is going to know I failed. These kind of thoughts, even before giving your test or answering your questions or exam, is something that we refer to as negative thought, which is catastrophizing. So self-monitoring is very important. Try to identify what kind of thoughts, what kind of negative thoughts are occurring in your mind. The second type is questioning your assumptions. So here this is another type of cognitive restructuring, where you are learning how, to question those thoughts and assumptions that you have about yourself, so that you can, lead a productive life where you can overcome all the stresses. You don't have to worry about it actually being a problem in your life. So some of the questions that you can actually ask, uh, is this thought based on emotion or facts? Is this true? If I now say that my friend is not inviting me for a party, maybe because they dislike me, or they cancel the party because they dislike me, they don't want to invite me. Now, if you have such a negative thought, you try to uh, understand, ask this question if this is actually an emotion or a fact. Then you ask this other question: what evidence is there that this thought is accurate? You should ask this question: that how accurate is my thought? Did I hear my friend talking about myself, not wanting to invite me to the party or canceling because of me? Did I hear it through someone else? Is there a witness actually who heard it? Is there an evidence? That's what you want to ask. Next is, how could I test this belief? How uh, accurate is this belief? So you try to find a way to test this belief. See, you can probably go and ask her, what was the reason that you canceled the party? Maybe she's going to tell the actual genuine reason why she has cancelled the party. You can relieve yourself then. What's the worst that could happen? How could I respond if the worst happens? What other ways could this information be interpreted? Is this really a black and white situation, or are there shades of gray here? Like we looked at, either being perfect or being, you know, thinking that you're a failure. So these kind of questions you need to ask yourself to understand, to restructure these negative thoughts. The most important aspect is gathering evidence, right? So you need to keep a track of what is actually going on and what is actually happening. Like you test the particular problem that you have and you try to understand and identify them. Sometimes there could be cognitive distortions, could be there, where you are not able to get the correct, uh, you know, answer to the problem, where there is a bias. You're biased about that particular thing, and whatever thought you have is inaccurate. So it is very important that you replace these things and try to understand uh, the rationality behind the belief that you have. Next is performing a cost benefit analysis. Using the strategy, we can try to understand the advantages and disadvantages of having or maintaining a cognitive distortion. So here you could ask the cost benefit analysis. You're trying to analyze by asking these questions yourself. What do you get out of calling yourself a complete idiot, for example? Maybe I'm scared that I might say I consider myself a complete failure. I ask myself, what makes me think that I am a failure? Is this true? So what this thought pattern cost you, what does this pattern cost you emotionally and practically speaking? The pattern is nothing but just making you feel miserable about yourself, nothing else. So you need to understand and ask these questions. What are the long-term effects of having such a thought pattern? How does this thought pattern affect the people around you? How does it advance or limit your job performance or your academic performance? Seeing the pros and cons side by side can help you decide whether it is worth changing the pattern. Now, when you write down these things, you will be able to understand. You're telling yourself, you're telling it out loud that, see, there is no evidence that, these thought patterns are true. It's just negative thought, these are just cognitive distortions and it is not going to help me. So I might have to go ahead and, help myself and restructure these negative thoughts. So I'm pretty sure that throughout the entire session of discussing a lot about what is stress, understanding stress, and different aspects of stress and the way how we can manage stress, you got a general idea about stress management. So thank you so much. Have a nice day.